What's going on, golf addicts? David Barnett of the Tour Junkies, Pat Perry of the Tour Junkies. This is TJ After Dark presented by DraftKings. It is well after dark. We have just recorded a podcast of our own that you can find wherever you listen to podcasts or on the Tour Junkies YouTube channel. We have had many podcast juices. This is vodka, no free ads.
Which
Pat
is
has
part of the
had
show. Part of the show is we really have gotten to the point where we've had a few drinks. It's after the podcast,
late in the evening.
So in case you're new to the DK After Dark show, that's just what happens, and deal with it. I mean, that's just what it is.
Yeah, and it's weird because you've had IPAs tonight, which normally, I kind of thought like you're such a creature of habit that you would be like drinking your vodka and just doing your thing that you normally do, but you've had a good bit of IPAs, and now you've switched to your normal, which normally you switch to rosé for TJ After Dark. You are the fantasy golf sommelier. So what do you got right now? Is it rosé?
Yeah, a little rosé.
Okay.
It's very good,
Okay.
and no free ads for. I'm not going to tell you what kind it is, but
look at that.
I even used a fancy glass tonight. Usually, I'll use like the stemless glass. It's like all plastic and. Oh wait, can we cuss on this show? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure we're not supposed to. We are talking about the Charles Schwab Challenge, which is the first just sport, like real sport that's happening right now, other than MMA, I guess. I guess definitely MMA is more of a sport than PGA. Pretty sure that's accurate. But you know what I mean, like big sporting event.
Yeah. Well, NASCAR's come back. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, we're really excited. Golf is back. It's going to be a lot of fun. No fans for the foreseeable future until like 6-8 weeks from now. We'll talk about that another time. But this is Charles Schwab Challenge. This is the famed, historic, classic Colonial Country Club is the golf course that we're at this week. We're gonna talk about the golf course. We're gonna talk about some just overall strategy, theory kind of stuff. We're going to spend a little more time on that this week because it's important than we are the picks that we disagree on. There's a couple picks, a couple players we're going to talk about that are kind of hot topics. We're going to hit those. And then we're going to give you some DraftKings Sportsbook plays that we like over in the old sportsbook world if you're in a state that lets you do that. Let's get into it, Pat. What do you got for the course breakdown? Tell us about Colonial Country Club and what's important to do well there.
Well, like you mentioned, this is Colonial's just an old classic design, tree-lined fairways, very tight off the tee. Par 70, playing just over 7,200 yards. You've got bent grass greens here. Everything else, Bermuda fairways around the greens, the rough and all that is Bermuda. This is a course that, has a lot of dog legs out there. It takes the driver out of the hands of a lot of these bombers because unless they want to kind of take it over the corner and cut some corners, they're really going to have to dial it back a little bit, which is important to know because I think that brings a lot of players in this field as contenders in this event. And as we've, mentioned, this is a fantastic field. I mean, the best field you've seen at Colonial probably ever. I mean, it was a major championship-like field except for having Tiger there. So I think you're going to see guys that they're going to dial it back off the tee a little bit. But it's important to hit these fairways in the right spot, even though you can miss it a little bit because the rough isn't all that penal. But really, this is a second shot golf course. I mean, we're talking strokes gained approach, greens in regulation, very small greens with a ton of undulation. So not only do you have to hit the fairways in the right spots to be able to attack these greens, but then you got to be able to hit the greens in the right spots in order to make birdies. And this is not a course where we see a ton of that. I mean, as far as birdies are concerned. I mean, it's going to be like 12 to 14 under. This is a tough course. I think they're going to have it set up pretty tough again this week. So you got to pick your spots on where you're going to score. One of the things that we talked with some players during the quarantine about, Colonial, because we had so much time leading up to it to be able to get a little bit of information. And a lot of them talk about experience out here. I mean, it takes some time to learn this course, to learn the nuances around the greens and, approaching the greens and things like that. So I do think experience is key. Maybe throw a little bit of course history in there. I don't know, just a little bit. But
a sprinkle.
A sprinkle there. It's like that GIF with the guy doing the so I think that could be important as well. But really excited to see these guys back on a course like this. I mean, it's we get Rory in the field. He's never played here. We got DJ here, who hasn't played here in 6 years. So it's going to be fantastic. Past champs, really quick, just to kind of give you a breakdown. I like to look at champs because it kind of gives you a kind of the player profile of who wins this event. We had Kevin Na last year. Okay, kind of a good ball striker, not long off the tee, things like that. You got Justin Rose in 2018, Kisner in 2017, another, just kind of fairways and greens type guy that can putt well when he gets hot. Jordan Spieth in 2016, and then Chris Kirk in 2015, kind of out of nowhere there. But there you go. That is the quick rundown on this course. So I would like to know your thoughts on that, the course.
Yeah.
But then let's probably get into some strategy talk, because it's interesting with no recent form. That's the biggest thing. We have 0 recent form to go off of, because 3 months, that's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. So we really need to talk about some strategy, especially in tournaments this week on DraftKings. And there's some good ones. God, there's some good ones on DraftKings. I mean, the $20, you got the Millie Maker, you got $100 and a $200 single entry. Yeah. So.
I mean, 3 months ago, you didn't have that devilishly handsome beard you're working right there. I mean, a lot can change in 3 months.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Past love life has changed in 3 months. That's probably a lot different. But yeah, there's a lot of unknowns. There's good. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of volatility, which is interesting to grasp at a time like this. Obviously, you've even got you got the fact that we don't have any fans this week. We don't have any grandstands or infrastructure for people to bounce golf balls off of. You don't have, kneecaps and ankles for people to bounce one off of in the fairway and then kick back into the first cut. You don't have you got COVID testing where every day you got somebody shoving a freaking Q-tip through your face. That's going to suck. Yeah. You got the potential that somebody who's playing really well could test positive and have to withdraw. You got somebody whose caddy could maybe catch it, and for some reason they didn't, and they have to withdraw. You got all kind of stuff, all kind of volatility. But you can embrace that volatility and have maybe have a huge week. But it is interesting. We don't have recent form. Your recent form is like January to March. Your long-term form is obviously however long you want to define that. What I think matters the most is ownership. If you're playing DFS, ownership. You need to have leverage in this field. I think that matters more than almost anything this week, because recent form is devalued. To me, course history is devalued. Obviously, we know Colonial fits a certain type of player. You mentioned that. It fits an iron player. It fits a guy who can get up and down, because these greens are tiny. You were going to miss these greens. You got to be able to get up and down. So like a grinder. But I said it on the podcast. I think because the way Colonial plays, it's going to neuter the long hitters. They're going to be neutered. You know what I mean?
Neuter. It's a good word.
The long hitters are going to be neutered. Everybody's playing to the same position off the tee. You may have some bold players who, try to cut corners. That may or may not pan out for them. You mentioned on the podcast, we saw John Rahm do that a couple years ago and almost won the event. There are a handful of guys playing here that don't normally play here that may try to do that, and it may work out for them. But for the most part, this is still a golf course where you have to play a little more conservatively off the tee and then attack these greens, and your irons have to be dialed in. And when you miss, you have to get up and down. That's the player profile that we're talking about. So, to me, let's talk about course history. The strength of field in this event this year is ridiculously different than it has been every other year. Every other year this tournament's ever been played, compared to this week, it looks like a minor league event. It looks like a Korn Ferry Tour event, and this looks like a standard PGA Tour field. This strength of field last year was rated between the Shriners Hospital for Children Open and the CJ Cup field. Now, if you're at home going, what the hell are those two? Exactly. Like that's how strong the field was for those, this tournament in years past. Now you've got some big boy names competing here. This is going to be so much fun to watch. But I think, to me, course history is less important. So you're looking at the stats, you're looking at the player profile, but most importantly, it's about ownership. Pat, let's get into a couple hot topics. All right, a couple names. Now, a couple of these we have disagreements on, but I think one I want to bring up is just an interesting name that everybody wants to talk about. But let's start at the top. This is a guy that we have disagreed on. In fact, we have disagreed on him so much so that we have a bet on this player. We did a bet on the Tour Junkies podcast. I think the bet was if this player finishes T17 or better, you win the bet. And I have to do my best impression of Bryson DeChambeau on social media, make a video, and do an impression of Bryson DeChambeau. If he finishes T18 or worse, then you have to do that impression and post it on our social media channels. So we disagree on Bryson DeChambeau. He's the fourth highest priced player on DraftKings. He is, what do you think, man? Like, what do you think about playing Bryson DeChambeau in DFS?
I like Bryson this week. Now, he on the show, he was not one of the particular names that was in my top three. That we have 3 GPP plays every week, and he was in this over 9K range. He was not one of my guys. But then when it came up later on, you didn't like him as your fade. Yeah, I like him. I think he can play this course well. Now, look, he has not shown that. But you're devaluing a little bit on the course history. So he hasn't really shown that he can play this course well. But you look at the stats, I mean, he's 12th in ball striking. He's 17th in greens and regulation. Other than that, he's kind of, middle of the road in a lot of the stat categories here. But I just feel like we've seen Bryson come around, pretty good this year. I think he's shown that despite this whole bulking up thing and whatever else that he's done, and he's a polarizing type guy because some people just hate him because of how he acts, and I can't necessarily disagree with that, but I think he can win you money, and I think he can play good on this course, and I think he's going to be definitely motivated to win here. Played college in Texas, so he's got some ties there as well. So I don't mind DeChambeau at all, and I don't mind that price at 10-1. So I'm all about it.
He played college in Texas.
That did sound weird, didn't it? That did sound weird.
He played some
college.
It's
almost like I was about talking football. Like he played his college ball in Texas.
He played some college in Texas. I mean, listen, it's well documented, A, that I can't stand Bryson. So maybe there's a little bias in there. B, all he cares about right now is ball speed and distance. In the quarantine, he's single. I mentioned this on the show. He's not married or even that we know of dating anybody because nobody could really tolerate.
Playing a lot of video games.
Nobody could really tolerate him talking about himself for that long. So he's either lifting weights, hitting golf balls, or playing Fortnite. Which all sounds great, but again, Colonial is not built for, me hit ball far. And, if this were Torrey Pines, we're talking about a different story.
But
I'm playing Bryson in that scenario.
I think he has some creativity on a course like this. I don't think he's just meathead golfer, even though that's what the persona he's given off.
Yeah, he's a brilliant guy. He's way smarter than me, for sure.
And if there's anybody that can go to a course and learn from it. Like he's literally you would think a guy like DeChambeau, who, like I said, has terrible history here, has not done. I mean, he's missed every cut other than a T42 back in 2018. 2 years ago. You would think that he might if a smart guy might be like, okay, well maybe I take this off the calendar and I go with a different event. But he's continuing to play. Now, of course, this year everybody wants to play there because of what's gone on. But I feel like if anybody can learn from poor play on a course, it's him. I mean, he is going to take every
but he's also
single
10-1 on DraftKings. He's also expensive.
I don't care.
He's a fourth highest price guy. All right, we got to move on. The next polarizing figure to talk about is Mr. Jordan Spieth. Now,
Jordan Spieth.
Jordan documentedly sucky for quite a while now, but he gets 90 days to slide under the radar, not have to answer media questions, not have to show up at a golf event and spray it all over the freaking yard. Put in the work, get better with the driver, get back to where he was with the driver and the irons. Before the COVID, right? His scrambling and putting was there. He was scrambling and putting very well. Now he comes to a course that he's won. He's had 2 runner-ups. It's in his home state of Texas. Everything sets up well for Jordan here. If he's going to come back, this is as good a course as any for him to make an appearance, be under the radar, not be a favorite, and get back to the Jordan that we know. What do you expect Jordan to do here? He's priced on DraftKings at $8,000, which seems to be, and this is a good time to talk about the contest that you're picking, right? Because if you're playing in a highly public contest like the Millie Maker, I could see Jordan being a little more popular than he may be in a higher stakes contest with a lot of sharp players that aren't quite ready to pull the trigger on Jordan. But he still carries a lot of cachet, a lot of name value in a highly public contest. What are you going to do with Jordan, if anything?
Well, on the show, he was my fade in this category, and I still think I'm leaning that way. But here's the thing: why is it that when we do a show like this or whatever, I guess we have to have an opinion one way or another. But I feel like sometimes I want to say, can I reserve judgment? Can I just wait for a couple days?
You must have an opinion now.
You have to have an opinion now. And right now I'm fading him, but really I want to reserve judgment because I want to see where he might come in as ownership and things like that. Because first off, I'm of the opinion that even in the 3-month break, I don't know if things have changed. I just don't think it's changed with him. He's consistently not been great for a year and a half or so now. Like he's shown flashes here and there. I want him to play good. I really want him to be good this week. I'm a Jordan fan. I'm not a fan of some of his whiny antics and things like that. But as a golfer, I'm a fan of his, and I want him to have a good week. But I just feel like, especially if we see him talked up in a little bit higher ownership, then I'm not about it because I just don't think all of a sudden the switch flipped and he's going to be, Jordan great again or whatever. I mean, it's just I don't see that. So right now I'm fading him, but reserving judgment that I may change my mind later on in the week.
Okay. Let's talk about DK Sportsbook, and let's button this bad boy up. A few picks over on DK Sportsbook that I'm interested in, some numbers that I'm looking at. I'll start with some shorter odds. Outrights at 30-1. I like Xander Schauffele. A lot of win equity there for Xander. He's a big game hunter, plays well in big events, big fields, great iron player. Like Xander there. A couple guys here at 50-1 that I think you'll also agree with. Matt Kuchar at 50-1, Justin Rose at 50-1. Both with great records here. Kuchar fits the profile to a T. You mentioned on the podcast that Justin Rose has switched his equipment from Hanma to now he's back with TaylorMade, which is a good thing. Went back at the Arnold Palmer. He was a completely different player playing with TaylorMade versus Hanma. So, again, you're looking for win equity and value, and I think 50-1 are really great numbers. All three of these guys I mentioned so far compete in major championship events, and this is like the strength of field here is equivalent to a WGC or better, or maybe even like a FedEx Cup event. Just beyond that, I like Gary Woodland, another major winner, another guy who plays well in big events at 60-1. Gary, despite being known as a bomber, really plays short courses quite well. Can hit a little stinger, iron off the tee. The key for him is, can he hit these small greens? Because if he can't, he sucks at chipping and putting. He sucks at chipping and putting. But if he hits the greens are small. He's going to have like a 30-foot putt at the longest if he hits greens. So that's the key. And then finally, a couple of long shots for me would be Kisner at 90-1 and Adam Hadwin at 100-1. Both kind of fit that player profile of being good ball strikers with great short game. Kisner's won here before in 2017. Hadwin checks the box. We know our boy Kiz has been playing, been practicing a lot, been working with his coach, John Tillery. He loves this golf course, documented how much he loves this golf course. And so I think that's an interesting bet as well. One last little pick, Doc Redman as a top 10 at 33-1. Now, Doc Redman's priced at like 6,200 on DraftKings or something like that in terms of DFS. But Doc Redman, young player, very aggressive player at 33-1 for a top 10. I think that's an interesting little quarter unit that you throw on Doc. So that's my DK Sportsbook plays of the week. What you got?
All right. Well, I like those, especially.
I thought you'd like those. Yeah.
Xander at 30-1. I'm a big fan of that. I like your Cooch at 50-1. My shortest odds guy.
You like my Cooch, huh?
Yeah, I like your Cooch.
You would.
Oh my God. First episode back in 3 months.
We're never gonna do this again, are we?
Yeah. Okay, so the shortest odds guy that I do like is Webb at 22-1. I think that's a good bet there. I like him. This is a great course fit for Webb, and he's shown good course history here. It's just again, the fit is perfect. So I do like Webb at 22-1. I'm surprised you didn't mention Morikawa at 50-1. I think that's a good number there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Winning in this field is going to be a big deal for the rookie. It's going to be,
but that guy, everything he does is good.
Yeah,
and he's a fantastic ball striker. I don't care if it's probably. Maybe it's his first time here. I don't know. I'm assuming it is.
Well, yeah. If
he
you
got
gave
a few
me
starts last year,
but I guess if you gave me 50-1 though, like I'd rather have Cooch and Rose at 50-1.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I do think in a vacuum, the Morikawa 50-1 number is an interesting number.
In that 70 to 75-1 area, I like Berger at 70-1, and I like Harris English at 75-1. I think those are two good plays as well. I think those are both two guys. Now, we haven't seen Berger win in a while.
English isn't winning this golf tournament. He's not going to win this golf tournament.
I think
he could play well, but he's not going to win this golf tournament.
Long shots, you're going to be interested. You're not going to like this one, but I think CT Pan at 225-1 would be an interesting play. Yep, 225-1. He finished T3 last year and T20 the year before that in 2018. Not very long off the tee. He's just kind of that plotter around the course. I think we could see a just a long shot, and then an extra one, a little bit shorter odds. Danny Lee at 151. I like that as well.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. I'm excited. We're excited to have the PGA Tour back. Excited to get a little sweat going. Hope you guys are as well. Be sure and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel here on DraftKings if you have not already. Leave us a comment. We'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. And may your screens be green and your betting cards be freaking amazing. You know what I mean? It's awesome. It's going to be a great week. Thanks for watching TJ After Dark, presented by DraftKings. See ya.
Out.